In its 10 animatronic bite. We all know the story of FNAF 4's 8-bit minigames and cutscenes, where Crying Child ends up getting chomped in the mouth of the Fredbear animatronic thanks to his older brother and his friends putting him in there. I proposed a different idea that not many people seem to appreciate, but thanks to the comments of one Thanos Snap on a previous part, it helped me realize, how did Fredbear manage to crush Crying Child's skull enough to put him in a coma? We originally believed that it was due to a spring lock failure since we saw someone wearing the suit in a previous part, but what we forgot about is that while on stage, Fredbear isn't in suit mode, it's an animatronic, so the spring locks were already all in place, and there wouldn't be any way that it should be able to crush his skull, and the chomping force of the mouth is going to have to be way over regulation to be able to cause the amount of damage we see, and if the suit was capable of that, nobody would wear it. There is no feasible explanation that allows what we see on screen to be the actual scenario where Crying Child dies, so how did this actually happen? And does this go to only further enhance my explanation of this scene? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and maybe we can work this out together. Into 9 Paper Pals. The Paper Pals are a group of paper plate versions of our favorite animatronics. Well, a couple of them. In FNAF 2, we can see paper plate versions of Bonnie, Freddy, and a human-looking one that might possibly be Balloon Boy. And while these may be crafts made by kids at the restaurant, or they might sell kits for you to be able to make these at home, where did the originals come from, and how can they move? In FNAF 2, the human-like Paper Pal can actually move from Cam 4, where it's originally found, into the office. And in FNAF 3, the 3 Paper Pals can do the same thing, using this teleporting mechanic seemingly at random. How can they do this? How can paper cutouts teleport between rooms? Is it a hallucination or something else? I don't know, and it terrifies me. Imagine all the paper cuts this thing would give if it jump scared you. Ow. Tail Trap. This was mentioned in the comments of one of the Funtime Foxy Facts lists by a user that I could not find the comment of twice, so I apologize. I really need to take note of this stuff. Anyway, the comment suggested that Funtime Foxy's tail could be where its containment chamber for the kids is collected. You know, like the containment chamber for the kids would be in its tail, which is an interesting idea, and it would give a reason as to why Foxy all of a sudden got a tail in sister location, but the beginning of the tail is so small that it would have to really squish the kid down to the size of like a Toblerone bar before actually getting to the wider part, so it's unlikely, but still something to think about. And it's 7 Glamrock Chica. While YouTuber Daka was doing a live stream for charity, when they would hit certain donation goals, they would unlock a new security breach teaser. One of the final ones was a picture of Glamrock Chica smashed in an alley or a junk lot of some kind, which first of all is very reminiscent of the scrapped animatronics from FNAF 6, but ignore that. There is one distinct detail that everyone noticed, but nobody seemed to really question further than why. And that detail being Chica is missing her beak. But not only did the same thing happen to Toy Chica in FNAF 2, but they also share the same body shape. Originally, Toy Chica lost her beak to make her scarier, and somehow Scott made it seem like it had bigger implications in the live stream from MatPat during the FNAF 4 days. Maybe it's because this was coming, or he wanted to make it seem bigger than it was. Or maybe Dream Theory was right for a time, but it isn't anymore. I don't know, I just figured it was an interesting detail that we should keep an eye on. Maybe how she loses her beak will be a big help in solving earlier problems. Or maybe there's something else in this image that I'm missing. I don't know. And at 6, Symmetry. FNAF VR has some interesting story elements that I'd like to point out to you. This was the basis for a personal theory I had a long time ago where I thought that in FNAF VR, we played as a man named Gabriel who was playtesting the game, since at the end we ended up getting stuffed into Freddy. However, there were other details that drove me to this conclusion, like for example, the fact that Glitch Trap causes Jeremy, a name that we know all too well in this series, to cut his face off, and then Bonnie shows up in the final room in the Pizza Party minigame, missing his face. And that Chica starts off without her arm in the Parts and Service minigame and shows up without the same arm in the final room as well. However, symmetry like this is everywhere in the FNAF series as a whole and not just in this game. Like how William would stuff his victims into the suits and then got stuck in one himself, etc. It's interesting and something I'm sure we'll see more of, so keep your eye out. Halfway through into number 5, history. Is FNAF history repeating itself? It's an interesting question that we should probably discuss since it seems like it might be. This idea started when I thought about how both dummy-thick versions of Chica lose their beaks, and it escalated from there. Because it seems like William is taking the lives of his original victims again, well at least by name. Granted, we don't know Tape Girl's name, and it could be Vanny, and we don't know who our character plays in like, we don't know who our character's name is in FNAF VR, and that could also be Vanny, but technically Vanessa, you know what I mean. Because as Glitch Trap, William has already taken the life of Jeremy, someone we know to be the one who possessed Bonnie based on the FNAF 3 ending, as well as the gravestone screen from FNAF 6. He made Jeremy cut his face off, like how Bonnie at the end of the Pizza Party minigame in the final room is missing his face. We don't know what became of Tape Girl, but she could very well be represented by Chica as well, someone we thought was okay, but then turned out to be incomplete, ergo the missing arm. Not in possession of all her marbles, should I say, as the final tape seems to indicate. It's interesting, and maybe Gregory in Security Breach will end up being the next crying child, but hopefully not Napkin Kid, because Christ, would that be annoying. In it for fake! Much like any YouTube video prank, what if everything in this world is fake? The story, the death, the in-universe minigames, the animatronics and special delivery, help wanted. What if it was all fake and just meant to be a massive marketing stunt that went entirely wrong? Or hell, maybe it went horribly right. If Freddy Fazbear's was dying, much like how Chuck E. Cheese was failing, could it possibly be that Fredbear's was too? And in an effort to keep the business alive, William and Henry created a marketing scheme that would get them some publicity and even bring in some more customers that were fans of horror. I mean, it would explain why William was never convicted and why the investigation was so flawed. They didn't actually check the suits because there was, in reality, no bodies inside them. They never leaked blood or mucus or smelled terrible. Why would anyone go if they did? Or stick around when they saw it, or hell, even smelt it? It also explains how, even through all this horror, they were able to expand, eventually opening an entire mall that they called a Pizzaplex. Oh man, am I onto something here? And 3, special delivery. The animatronics from Special Delivery were supposed to be friendly, basically being a nice way for the company to rebuild their image. But then, they send out angry animatronics that try and kill you. Why did they think that was a good idea? And I get that they were hacked by the Afton virus, but there is plenty of sus things going on in this game. Like, why, if the company was trying to rebuild its reputation with these friendly animatronics, have they not shut down the project after I'm sure they've gotten emails and stuff about the animatronics going rogue? And why the absolute hell did they include versions of Springtrap, a character that we know thanks to the man in room 1280, everyone knows is guilty. They have multiple versions of him as well, the normal one, the toxic one, and the curse, which is a recent addition as far as I know. They literally named him the Curse. It's what? Just remove him from the program. Why would I want to order a literal killer? Is this the same thing as when like girls say that serial killers are hot? Because that's also messed up. Like, how am I supposed to compete with that? Actually, there is a solution. I'll be back. And it too, just an illusion. FNAF's sister location is probably one of the most popular FNAF games to date, with plenty of fan favorites like Funtime Freddy, Foxy, and Baby being added, as well as the new fan art favorite Ballora. However, is what you see really what you get in this particular FNAF game? Well, it's a good question, and you may be thinking, Connor, of course it is. What are you talking about? You're dumb. And if you are saying that, I'd like to direct you to when we have to repair Funtime Freddy in sister location. As we open up his chest cavity, we can see a weird disc, something that's being described in the books as being able to create illusions using sound. And it seems to be flashing red. They call it a power module, but there is no way that that little disc is a power module. And if it's one of those discs, could it be changing the look of everything? Hell, this could have taken place in the basement of a goddamn shack, and we wouldn't know. It's pretty scary to think about. Finally, in at number 1, Mrs. Afton. We don't know the identity of Mrs. Afton. We don't even know if there is a Mrs. Afton, or if she was just a baby mama, or hell, if William's kids are just adopted. Most people draw a connection between Mrs. Afton and Clara from Immortal and the Restless, so much so that people believe Mrs. Afton's name is Clara. However, I propose the idea that could explain what happened to Mrs. Afton, and it makes a great amount of sense. The Fazbear Frights books were meant to help explain bits of the in-game lore, along with making Scott more money. Take the book Bunny Call with the story The Man in Room 1280, which I keep going back to. But this time, I'm talking about the story 1:35 AM from the book of the same name. This story revolves around Delia, who has recently gotten divorced from her husband, heartbroken because she never got the family that she wanted. She comes across a garage sale that has a doll that looked exactly like the daughter she had envisioned. She buys it and finds out that it's an alarm clock. Then, much like an actual baby, instead of waking her up when she wanted, she ends up getting woken up at 1:35 AM every morning. It gets so bad she runs away and hides in a factory ventilation shaft where she waits until she dies or suffocates. That's a really brief synopsis, but let's look at the parallels between Delia and Mrs. Afton as well as Delia's story. Delia's parents died when she was young, so she was put into the foster care system where she was bounced around from family to family, but also was continuously abused. Eventually, she fell in love and was ready to start a family until her husband divorced her, which could be the case between William and his partner. We have no evidence as to what happened between them, so we can only speculate. Delia never managed to get the kids she wanted, and Mrs. Afton, assuming she was still alive, didn't get the kids in any form of divorce or court hearing, since we see the three of them living with William in FNAF 4 and Midnight Motorist. And then the surrogate daughter for Delia is a possessed doll. We learn she is possessed in another story where Phineas Taggart needs it to study agony, much like how William's daughter Elizabeth ends up possessing basically a giant robotic doll. The connection is somewhat loose, yes, but certainly more solid than Clara, since she was just talking to a purple-suited vampire about having his kid, and Vlad was denying it, despite it clearly being his, but still. Perhaps both of these stories combine together to create the story of Mrs. Afton. Not to mention the next story in that book is about the mini-Renas, who are meant to be Bellora's surrogate children. And who do people think that Bellora either represents or is possessed by? Mrs. Afton. Unit 10, the power of love. The immense agony generated when you hear me sing. The immense agony generated when you get killed is the fuel behind how possession works in the FNAF universe. This makes you think, if agony is the most powerful emotion in this world, what do the other emotions do? Or rather, where are the other emotions ranked? If agony lets you possess animatronics among other things upon death, what would emotions like anger and love do? And what is the second most powerful emotion? How far does it radiate? Do all emotions just allow you to possess things? Just other emotions are less likely to do so? Like, how does it work? I want to shout out the YouTube user that left the comments on this video that brought this to my attention, but I can't find that comment for a second time. So, I don't know if it was deleted, but if this was you who left the comment on the previous Tiny Details video, thank you so much. These things are getting really hard because I'm running out of details and I'm relying so much more on the comments section. So if you have any tiny details I have yet to talk about, please, I cannot stress this enough, leave it below. It doesn't even have to be, it doesn't even have to have like bigger implications. Okay, just something that's small, just please. Thank you for your help. And at 9 hiding place. Throughout Sister Location, we're constantly being talked to by Baby. At first, she wants to help us, at least it seems that way, and then we get scooped. But before that, she mentions that someone crafted one of the cupboards into a hiding place, but who did that? Was it one of the technicians? Was it the man from the Fazbear Frights book? I mean, I don't think it would have been because he kind of got stuffed with mini-Renas. And I mean, the technicians are killed at the end of the game, but were they freshly filleted or were they there the whole time, only being revealed when a light was shining on them? Who knows, really? Maybe it was Baby who made that hole so we would trust her, or maybe it was William hiding from the wrath of his daughter. I mean, she had to be mad at him, right? Why else would she be haunting him in Ultimate Custom Night? Sure, he regrets what happened, but she surely blames him for the situation that she's kind of stuck in. She was clearly in agony since, you know, she possessed Baby, and William was 100% avoiding her. I mean, you don't just get shut in a room and not be avoiding your daughter, right? Parents know. And it is Shadow Animatronics. The Shadow Animatronics really don't have an explanation, even after all these years. We still just have a couple of ideas as to what these are. Some think that Crying Child is Shadow Freddy, others think that they're employees that ended up getting killed, either by the animatronics, William, or the Springlock suits. Since the two Shadow Animatronics are Freddy and Bonnie, who we know have Springlock variants in the games thanks to the phone guy dialogue. But where did these Shadow Animatronics come from and where did they go? Cotton Eye Joe. Did we release them? Are they still after us? Were they ever really hostile? The whole Shadow Animatronic situation was kind of forgotten over the years, and while it may not be an important detail, it's still something I'm curious about and I still want to answer. And it's 7 Charlie. The original FNAF novel trilogy had a big plot twist at the end. In the FNAF novel The Fourth Closet, it's revealed that the main protagonist, Charlie, was actually the third in a series of 4 robots that were a recreation of Henry's daughter, who was killed at an early point in her life. However, the final version was incomplete and could also switch between looking like a real human, so much so that another character wanted to make Whoopi with them, to looking like Baby, you know, like the actual Baby animatronic, thanks to pins located around Baby's body like we see in the games. I've used this as evidence for another theory before, but we've never stopped to really ask how she's able to look so realistic. And it's a big point, because this is the same argument people use to try and debunk my theory. How does the skin work? In the novels, it's revealed that she actually has fake blood, which makes sense since, you know, if you get cut and you don't bleed, someone's gonna get suspicious. I hope. Which means the skin should be able to bruise. But where did this technology come from? It's so realistic, someone wants to see all of it, yet it's still fake. How is this possible? But more so, it also helps in my theory proving that my scenario is entirely plausible. I'm not moving from my stance that Michael Afton or the Big Brother in the games is a robot version of Crying Child created after Crying Child dies. In whatever happened, because obviously what we see isn't actually what happened. Because, like, there's no way Fredbear chopped it. In its sixth fourth child. A lot of people seem to fixate on Clara from Sister Location's Immortal and the Restless for a proxy for Mrs. Afton, the mother of the Afton kids, since she talks to a vampire meant to represent William, whose name is Vlad. However, the theme of the show is Vlad constantly denying that the baby is his. Clara, the baby isn't mine, even though the baby can turn into a bat and sleeps hanging upside down. But what if there is more to that than just being a proxy for William's wife? Because I doubt Clara would be the name of the character and the name of the mother if William's character is named Vlad. What if this is secretly revealing that William has a fourth child? One that hasn't met a terrible fate yet. One that perhaps William didn't believe was his when his wife told him. So much so that he divorced her on the grounds that she cheated and he got the kids. A simple paternity test would reveal that he is the father, but he could claim that they were faked, like how Vlad denies the child being his, even though it's literally a vampire. And William is well connected, so bringing a trial would be easy cheese. He has to be well connected to not have been, actually thrown in prison. There has to be something going on. Now, who could this secret child be? This may be a stretch, but what about Gregory? Unless we go off my theory that in FNAF 1 and 2 we play as Henry, we've only played as characters of the Afton family until FNAF VR potentially. So what if the fourth child is the one we play as in Security Breach, and that's why Vanny is trying to capture him? Or more realistically, what if Vanessa is the child, and that's how William was able to take control of their mind? They're related. Only time will tell. How about we do it at number 5, Premonition? Now, I'm not talking about real psychic powers here, but what if the ending of Security Breach was pointed out to us way before even Sister Location was released? That's right, I'm talking about FNAF 4, baby! The stomach mounts of the animatronics is always assumed to be because Crying Child saw Elizabeth get scooped. But what if it was really foreshadowing the events of games to come? We know that Gregory will hide inside Glamrock Freddy. Perhaps, while we're in there in first person, we will watch ourselves get crushed, helpless. That would be fun. However, I want Chica to be the one to step on me, I mean crush me. Yeah. Crush me. And at 4, Gregory. Continuing on Security Breach, what connection does Gregory have with anyone else in this game? I mean, he could be the fourth child, it's unlikely but possible in a way, but how on earth does he have a watch that connects to the security cameras of the place? Does he get it in the security room? And who would leave a piece of tech that would be so useful to anyone they're trying to stop out in the open? Like, ripe for the taking. Was it Vanessa? Does she know she's compromised? I mean, she does in Special Delivery, but is Ness the Vanessa we're thinking of, or is it just a name meant to confuse us? Because Scott's done that before. I don't know anymore. I'm sad. Take the multiple uses of the name Jeremy. What is that, dude? And at 3, hallucinations. The hallucinations from FNAF 1 are their own story too. Where did they come from? Is it Golden Freddy? If it is, why do we need to see them, or why do we see them in the first place? Are they actual newspaper articles, or are we just fully hallucinating? Is this real life, or is this just a fantasy? Caught in a landslide, escape Golden Freddy. But seriously, why are we seeing these things other than it being important to the mystery of the game? Is there something more going on here that we haven't discovered yet? Is Golden Freddy the one changing these articles and posters, or are we somehow doing it ourselves? These hallucinations, or whatever they are, have some sort of explanation behind them. I just need to know what that explanation is. In a 2, Scene in the Shadows. During MatPat's Big FNAF livestream during the FNAF 4 days, he ended up getting clues from Scott Cawthon himself via the Scott Games or FNAF World website, I can't remember which one. One referencing Chica's beak, one talking about 4 games, 1 story, and then one saying what is seen in shadows is often misunderstood in the mind of a child. And since Scott has since debunked Dream Theory, what did this mean? Did he originally intend on Dream Theory being the correct answer, then changed his mind? Because, you know, that's pretty Scott. Or is there still some validity to this clue that we haven't explored yet? I mean, we originally assumed it was the scene where Purple Guy puts a head on a coworker in a suit, but is this referencing something else now? Did Crying Child see Elizabeth get scooped in the shadows, making it really look like there was a stomach mouth and some weird alien tongue that grabbed her? Hence the stomach mouths on the nightmare animatronics? Or did he just see it directly and that's why they're there, and this is referencing something completely different? I mean, it would make sense, but Sister Location hadn't come out yet, right? I don't know anymore. My brain hurts. Finally, in number 1, Henry's death. There are currently 2 deaths that we know of for the character we know as Henry. Once in the FNAF 6 fire, where he stays while it burns so nobody will remember this place, but also once in FNAF World, where he gets killed by Baby. However, if he died in the FNAF 6 fire along with Baby, how did he die in the FNAF World cutscene? There seems to be a simple explanation. Actually, they are the same thing. That room that Henry was in that cutscene must have been a room in the FNAF 6 building that we just didn't know about. Maybe the safe room that we heard so much about until FNAF 3 when we just forgot about it. That scene was basically a flash forward to the FNAF 6 location even if we didn't know it at the time, where Baby kills Henry before they're both engulfed in flames. She either killed him due to rage or the fact that Henry called her Elizabeth. Or cut her off in the ending because, yeah, that would make me go nuts too.
And be full.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name, but I'm afraid you've been misinformed.
In 10, Special Delivery. Special Delivery is a weird game, and while I do mean the gameplay aspects like collecting Remnant, in this case I really mean in a timeline sense, since we know it takes place between Help Wanted and Security Breach, but what is the canonicity of this game? Are they actually trying to rebuild their image by sending out animatronics that were supposed to be friendly, or are they intentionally scaring people, and do the customers know if they're going to be scared, like a mail order killer service? Or do they expect an animatronic helper for around the house? And what is with sending out versions of the killer that ruined the reputation of the company in the first place? Like, is it a joke? Is it intentional? Do they know that was the housing for William after they thought he disappeared? Or is this all just fake? One of the games that we know within the universe. Are these animatronics really getting sent to your house, or are we as the player experiencing the same thing someone in universe would experience, like through their phone, an AR game? Like, what is actually going on in this game? And at 9, Hover Hands. I don't think I've mentioned this before in this series, but I noticed something that most people seem to ignore while discussing the ending to FNAF VR. Most people assume that we swapped places with Glitch Trap, that he takes over our body in the final fight. But if when you get onto the stage after he swaps, you can see your hands and headset are missing if you look back to the desk you were at. Your holographic hands are nowhere to be seen. Yes, your controllers are controlling the Glitch Trap suit hands, but if you're really swapped, you would see holographic hands at that spot, most likely waving and taking off the headset. So why aren't they there? Because we don't swap places with Glitch Trap, we merge with him. I think that this is fairly common knowledge by now, but when MatPat first released this video and said Glitch Trap escapes this game through us, nobody seemed to notice that, and he in fact didn't. So there you go. You should have heard it here first, but you weren't subscribed, so don't worry, it's okay. Speaking of that, if you're enjoying the video, why don't you hit that like button? It really helps us out and lets us know what you want to see more of, and while you're doing it, just click subscribe. We're so close to 500,000 subscribers, and we know you love FNAFs, so we're still making FNAF. And in 8, fanfiction. We know there are plenty of FNAF fanfictions, probably too many if I'm honest. The ones we've talked about here are creepypastas, but I guess in a way it's sort of theories. However, have we ever stopped to consider any in-universe FNAF fanfiction? Or, well, at least I guess Freddy Fazbear fanfiction? Whether it be about the games that are in-universe or the characters themselves. Believe it or not, there is in fact Chuck E. Cheese fanfiction, so it is possible. But what would these fanfictions be? What about the Silver Eyes or Fazbear Frights? The novel isn't fully connected to the games, only sharing some similar aspects and characters, right? That's what fanfiction is. And Scott wasn't the only one who wrote these books. He had help. The Silver Eyes was also written by Kiara Breed Risley as well. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name. If I did, I apologize. And Fazbear Frights had help from Ellie Cooper and Andrea Wagner. So technically, since they're not Scott Cawthon, it's just fanfiction that is considered canon. Huh. Gives you a lot to think about, huh? So go ahead, write your fan fiction. Just make sure that it isn't nasty. And don't ship dead kids with their killer or their dead sibling. Okay? I can't believe that that's a thing. It's an active virus. We know that William is a virus at the moment. After dying in the man in room 1280, he possesses a hard drive that gets scanned into FNAF VR Help Wanted. We also know the virus gets uploaded to special delivery thanks to the special delivery emails and the aggressive nature of what was supposed to be nice animatronics. However, why did the virus get uploaded? Who uploaded it? Well, thanks to the emails we aren't supposed to see, we learned that Vanny, the antagonist of the upcoming Security Breach game, is the one who's uploaded the virus. I mean, it makes sense. She's a follower of Afton, even if it's reluctant. However, with the various versions of Springtrap in the game, could this virus be to blame for them? Especially Toxic Springtrap, who is the signature purple of the infamous purple guy who occupies the suit. Was Toxic Springtrap the original attempt to escape the video game world? I mean, the AR game is the closest we've gotten to having FNAF animatronics in real life, and Scott isn't one to be afraid of being meta. I mean, he was the final boss of FNAF World after all. So could William's real plan to be to escape into our world? And would that tie in with the new Joy of Creation Ignited collection that Scott is helping to fund? Since in that game you play as Scott Cawthon, and the animatronics are coming after you in the real world. I don't know, it seems possible. And at 6, Ballora glasses. In the Fazbear Fright story of Room for One More, we see a girl steal a pair of glasses that show her a dancing Ballora when she puts them on. It starts off sweet, but as we know, these animatronics don't mess around. Eventually, Ballora starts getting closer, basically just coming in for a kill. And in an effort to atone, the girl returns the glasses to their owner, only to have her daughter get caught by Ballora. The actual story though isn't important, so if I messed it up, please forgive me. What I'm really looking at here are the glasses. These glasses help this girl see Ballora when nobody else can. And this reminds me of something that we've experienced in the games, the Nightmare animatronics. Could it be that instead of the illusion sound discs that we've been thinking caused the Nightmare animatronics, that it was actually these glasses? And yes, I said Nightmare sound discs intentionally because I saw a comment that said please say just illusion discs. So no, illusion sound discs. You can't tell me what to do. Scott himself said that these stories would help us solve things from the games. So what if Crying Child was wearing these glasses and that's how he saw the nightmares? It would explain why he wouldn't call for help because he knew that nobody else could see them. And I doubt that they would have put on the glasses if he had asked. Plus, it would also explain why Michael knows what the Nightmare animatronics look like as an alternate explanation to my he's a robot crying child theory, which I'm sure plenty of you want at this point. Halfway through and in number 5, Disassembled. In FNAF 1, we only had 5 animatronics to worry about, and no convoluted story. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy was our cast of characters, compared to the over 50 that appear in Ultimate Custom Night. However, even out of all 50 plus, Golden Freddy is still the most interesting and mysterious. In the first game, he had no endoskeleton. He seemed to just be a floppy suit with 2 glowing eyes that somehow was able to teleport through walls, and some believed to be able to cause hallucinations like the infamous It's Me text and Eyeless Bonnie, along with changing posters on the wall and generating news articles that show us more lore. But how? And why? Why is he so limp? The amount of jokes I could make for that. Is his endoskeleton the one in the storage room, and why was it removed in the first place? Was it for cleaning or something? Because let's be honest, if the animatronics are leaking mucus and blood and smell like death and don't get washed, I doubt that they'll be cleaning Golden Freddy. Some think that it's because he caused the bite of 87, but there is evidence for other characters as well, and nothing has been confirmed. So, why? And in 4, Glitch. Continuing on Golden Freddy, how does he have these powers? How can he move in and out of the office at will, basically moving through walls and causing weird hallucinations that give us issues for 7 years? Yet we still don't know how it's possible. This should, in reality, be incredibly hard to do, if not impossible, because even in the FNAF world, this kind of thing is hard. Is this what the other emotions can do, or is this agony stretching so far that they can move through solid objects and hide from our vision? Why have we not tried to figure this out? We kind of just accepted that he can do this, and then we moved on. Like, what the actual hell is this little freaking goddamn golden bear? Is he a bear? Yeah, he's a bear. Like, he can just come in and out whenever he wants, crash us to the desktop, and then laugh as we have to reboot it like he just loaded Skyrim for the 40,000th time without mods. Like, where did this man come from? And in 3, Gotchaverse. Unfortunately, in the FNAF canon, there are now multiple timelines and multiple dimensions thanks to the confirmation of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. However, that basically means any fan fiction about FNAF is true in one form or another, and any theory about FNAF is correct in one universe, which unfortunately means that there is an entire canon version of the FNAF Gotcha fandom. Don't get me wrong, it's cringy and it really shouldn't exist, but technically it's canon in another Earth. I don't know what to do with this information. It just kind of makes me sad, honestly. And into Oswald. It may have come across as a joke when I said it in the last part, and how I mentioned that FNAF has its own Barry Allen that's going around messing up the timeline. But you know what? It wasn't. Not anymore, at least. Scott has stated before that the Fazbear Frights books are meant to help us solve bits of confusion in the main FNAF canon, like how William was able to survive being spring-locked and whatnot. But I believe that Scott has given us the biggest answer already in the very first story of the series. Into the Pit is the title of the first story and the first Fazbear Frights book, and is centered around Oswald, a kid who loves to draw but has recently been focusing on furry animals with robots inside. Eventually, he finds a ball pit that sends him through time into the past, where eventually he sees 6 murders and flees back to his time. But he does survive until the end of the story, which is kind of rare for these Fazbear Frights books. I think that it was on purpose. There are a lot of things that contradict themselves in this story, with statements from different characters changing the timeline and making it so damn difficult to navigate. Plus, now we have multiple dimensions to think about with the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative and the book series worlds. But what if the reason the timeline is so clunky is because Oswald is changing it? There isn't much of a connection to the games for these first couple stories, but looking at it like this has it make a lot more sense, and explains all the changes. It's like Flashpoint. Barry knew what was different because he was outside of the timeline change. We're outside this timeline too, and that's why we see the mistakes. This genuinely seems like the only explanation to me. I mean, I know it's highly unlikely, but I mean, what other explanation could there be? Finally, in at number 1, skins. FNAF AR doesn't only have a confusing story, it also has confusing mechanics. Like, for example, if everything is supposed to be real, where are all these skins coming from? And how is it possible? And to that, I think I have a solution. If these skins are meant to be real, because why wouldn't they be? If we can see them, they must be real, right? I think that there is a simple explanation that solves this issue that I've been having for a while. The illusion discs from the Twisted Ones novel that we also see in Sister Location. These, as we know, can easily manipulate the appearance of anything nearby, at least in the minds of individuals close enough to the discs themselves. And this is the most likely scenario to explain how we can change the skins of these animatronics basically at will. It just sets the disc to emit the proper sound, or however it changes the looks of these things. Right frequency, I guess? Which is honestly kinda cool. It would also be cool if we had this in real life so I could change my appearance whenever I wanted, but like just my clothing. You don't want to get rid of the moneymaker right here. Imagine just like changing skins at will like you can in Minecraft or Fortnite. Like, it would be fun, but like it would just be clothes. So you can just be like, aha, I'm wearing a banana. Aha, I'm a burrito. Aha, I'm a glizzy gobbler.